Both of those sound on to you guys?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, are you part of the production crew here, people?
Absolutely.
All right? Yeah. But you guys are good? The actual production crew is good too? All right. Cool. All right. Fantastic. No, but thank you for speaking up. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Okay. Yes, Mother, get your coat settled. Settle in. No, we'll wait. Sure, no, it's fine.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Courtney, Mom. Courtney. Yeah. All right. We'll get going. You ready to get going?
I am.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to switch this slide because in a minute I'm going to refer to it. So, hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Dennis Scully. I'm the host of the Business of Home podcast, and I'm also the curator of the Dialogues on Design series here at the New York School of Interior Design. Just so you know what this program is all about, this is a big scholarship fundraiser for us. So through subscriptions and sponsorships, the conversations that we have here raise money for our scholarship programs, including our diversity scholarship and our pre-college scholarship program, where we introduce interior design as a career path for young people from often underrepresented communities. All of the people on this slide here, I'm not going to read them all to you aloud, but they have all generously contributed to this program, and I want to thank them, and I wonder if we can give all of them a round of applause for supporting this. Tonight, I have the pleasure of speaking with Courtney McLeod.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm delighted. Courtney is the founder and principal of the award-winning design firm Right Meets Left Interior Design. We'll discuss what that's all about in a minute. Courtney graduated from the prestigious Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania and went on to a highly successful 15-year career in the financial services industry, rising to a leading portfolio management role in real estate private equity. Despite her success, at the peak of her career in what we can only assume was some sort of midlife crisis, she threw all that away and gave up the safety and security of a generous and steady paycheck to chase after her true passion, design. We'll examine what you were thinking in just a moment. Now she brings her keen financial acumen and her belief in the transformative power of design to clients around the country. I'm proud to say that she serves as a trustee here at the New York School of Interior Design and has earned herself a spot on the ELLE Decor A-List for the last 2 years running. Will you please join me in welcoming Courtney McLeod?
Thank you. Thank you. I am so delighted to be here. So I've been looking forward to this.
Well,
so
we are
much.
thrilled to have you, Courtney. We feel like you're one of our own, so we're especially excited. But we do wonder, Courtney, as we look at this picture here of you.
Look how big that computer is.
Were you not happy there in that? I mean, what about this didn't fulfill every, right? I mean, you're looking at that thinking, what more could you have wanted,
I
really?
know. The bare walls and the drab interiors.
And the big,
Yeah.
and that big hulking computer on your desk.
I know.
But,
It's a dream.
Well, but now, what was a dream was to get into Wharton, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I actually applied to business schools and architecture programs. And I was like, if I get into Penn, that's where I'm going to go, and that was going to be my path. But I always had a strong interest in design and architecture. So I feel like this is my second chance to pursue the path not taken.
Okay. And I want to hear more about that, but tell me what you were really doing here. What was this private equity, real estate, portfolio manager?
Sure.
What were you doing?
We basically invested in regional, smaller companies that were real estate developers. We were their seed capital, and we would give them money, and my job was to make sure that they executed their business plan so that we could meet our exit on each deal. So it was a lot of finance stuff, but there was also a real estate component to it, which, you know, there was a little bit of design adjacent to that.
Okay.
But yeah, and so it was lots of travel, which was really cool, and yeah, it was exciting. It really was.
It was exciting, and it was, one assumes, financially rewarding, but it just wasn't enough for you? I mean,
yeah, you know, I think that, you know, when you're younger and you're pursuing your dream, you have this idea of, oh, when I get that job, you know, you have that goal in mind. That's where I'm going to be happy. And I worked, and I got there, and I looked around, and I said, no, this actually isn't it. And that was really the wake-up call. And it was like, you know what? Knocking on 40, you know, now is the time to actually do that. And I had the benefit of a little bit of a financial cushion to be able to do that. And I really, once I made the decision, I just jumped. I really did not have a plan, which is very much not like me. But as soon as I did it, zero doubt, had just not even a second of doubt that I was on the right path. And I just went from there.
So you had always, you mentioned you applied to architecture school as well, and so it was always in you, this passion about design.
It was, and I would travel to study design. I would, you know, take, you know, continuing education classes, things like that. I think the craziest thing though was I would move like every 2 years into a new apartment just so I could decorate a new space. Which if you've ever moved in New York City, you know how absolutely insane
I was going to say,
that
do
is.
that to yourself every 2 years.
But
just so that you could decorate.
Just so I could decorate, but it brought me so much happiness and so much joy. And it was people coming to my apartments and saying, gosh, like, who did this? You know, this is, you know, you maybe have something. I think that helped to boost my confidence that, you know what, maybe I could try this. But it's different to design for yourself than to be able to design for someone else. And that was the part that was the unknown for me. And that was really the leap of faith.
Okay, so tell me briefly, you go and you tell your bosses, I mean, what do you say to them? Listen, I gotta go, this isn't for me.
Yeah, you know, I just said that, you know, I want to pursue a different path. And given that I wasn't going to go to a competitor, you know, that eased it a little bit.
They were fine with that. Oh, you're not going to another financial firm?
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, I'm a pretty decisive person. And once I put my mind to something, you know, they knew that I wasn't changing my mind. So.
And were people, so I assume people were surprised because you were.
A little. But I was always the one in the office that would push the fashion envelope a little bit, you know. I was always the one with design magazines on my desk, you know, so everyone knew that I kind of had a little bit of that in me. You know, there's pretty much none of that in financial services, pretty boring. But yeah, so I don't think it was a shock.
Okay.
But, you know, anytime you make such a drastic change, I think people are a little bit like midlife crisis, you know, so yeah.
I did wonder that myself, but you've stuck with it, so I assume it's more than that now. But, yeah. So, as you say, you had a little bit of a financial cushion, you've been doing pretty well, and you took the leap with what in mind? What did you imagine was going to happen when you left to pursue design?
Yeah, I didn't plan to start my own firm. I just thought I would go and work for someone else. And I got really lucky. And luck is such a big part of anyone's success story. Mine was I downsized to a small apartment in Harlem. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make it super cute, really fun, and that's going to be my portfolio. And, I did that, and a woman came to buy some old chairs that I was selling, and she saw the apartment, she thought it was really great, and she said, hey, would you help me with my apartment? So I'm thinking, well, you're buying my old chairs, but, yeah, and so it turned out she had a beautiful apartment down off of Washington Square Park, and she was my first client, and she knew I was just starting, and I'm so glad that was the first experience, because she was so open, generous, fun, interesting. When I made mistakes, it was okay. And that was really what made me think, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. And then that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna do this on my own.
And did you, if I recall, you went and tried to get internships, but perhaps your background might have been a little bit of a stumbling
block. Yeah. Ironically, my resume didn't scream ideal intern to anyone. So, so that was a big part of it too, Yeah. But thank goodness, because I wouldn't have taken the path that I've taken, and it's been a ride, an amazing ride. So.
An amazing ride.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is. Tell me what's going on here.
So this was in 2016, and the editor-in-chief of Aspire magazine, she saw my work on house.com. Back then, House had just started. It was a little bit of a different thing then. And, you never know who's looking. Put your stuff out there. You never know who's going to see it. And she saw this project, and she said, oh, who's this? And, I got to chat with her, we got to talking, and she was like, I think you have something, we want to publish. This was my apartment. And I didn't know it was going to be on the cover or anything, and so that was a surprise. That was incredible. But it was just such a vote of confidence from someone in the industry, because, I'm an outsider. I'm coming in and trying to make my way. And so to have that, it really was just fundamental to being able to take the risks that I took as I progressed.
Yeah. So let's talk specifics, since we have quite a few students in the room. Let's talk about how you go from this lovely woman who comes to buy your chairs and brings you in. Tell me how you even think about building the foundational building blocks of having your own practice. So you've gotten turned away because you're vastly overqualified in most people's eyes for this internship at a design firm. You probably could have come in and run the financial side of their operations pretty easily, I'm guessing. But so instead you did what?
Well, I had the benefit of the business side is actually where my strength was at that point. That was the easy part for me, and I know that's a bit unusual. So setting up the structure was straightforward. I knew what to do, I did it, got all my ducks in a row, and I really, one of the things I did, I read the book Professional Practice of Interior Design. It's like a textbook, and I read that cover to cover.
Okay.
And that kind of taught me a little bit of the logistics and the fundamentals of executing a project. And, for me, it was really more not the business structure, but figuring out who am I as a designer? Like, what am I selling? What's compelling about my message versus everybody else? And, for me, it took a long time to get, the cojones to really be specific about who I am, because I was afraid I would alienate all these clients who would hate my style anyway.
So did this give us an idea, a little bit of who you were? How were you articulating what your work was all about, and what you were all about?
Well, one thing I did, and it's funny, so many people loved it. I love art and fashion, and I popped that little dress on that piece of art. And, it was just something fun. Like, it was just, something I had done in my apartment. And I think it was just that little playfulness, the irreverence, not taking myself too seriously, but also keeping it elegant and really being depth with color. I didn't even realize that that's, what was forward, but people were coming back to me and mirroring that back and saying, oh, that's what I like. That's why I want to hire you.
Okay.
So this led to projects, which
Got
was
it.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember you told me that you had also put some hours in a silent auction, I assume, at
I did.
a private school here in the city, and
I
that
did.
turned into something meaningful. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So the fancy schools in the city, they'll usually have a Christmas auction, and so I said, oh, I'll donate a package of 10 hours. Great way to get in front of potential clients. And so a lovely couple got the certificate, and I designed a nursery for them in the city. And it was super cute, it was super fun, and they loved it. It was great. Fast forward maybe 4 or 5 months later, and they had moved to a beautiful mansion on Long Island, like a 10,000 square foot house. And they said, we know you're relatively new, but we had a great experience with you. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah.
In their 10,000 square foot house. What?
Now,
you're brand new at this and have no experience, but come into our 10,000 square foot house.
But
okay.
that's the thing, in that small project, they saw how I worked. They saw how organized I was. They saw that I did have a creative vision.
So that's what it was. You were very buttoned up. They
I
saw
was.
how together you
I
were.
was.
Okay.
And even though I was a one-person shop, they had confidence that I could pull it off. And thank goodness I did. Yeah.
And so how did you even know all of the resources? I mean, how did you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of days in the D&D and 200 Lex, because I didn't have a depth of knowledge of all of the resources. So I that was a struggle for sure. As I look back, I think, oh, there were other vendors I probably would have used, and I just didn't have that breadth of knowledge. But thank goodness for that project, because it forced me to do a ton of research. It forced me to get out there. It gave me a little bit of a boost to be able to walk into the fancy showrooms and say, oh, I'm looking for a project, instead of just kind of in there. And all of those things, just helped me to develop. And so when I finished that project, I was a totally different designer than when I started. I was like, you know what, now I feel like a professional. Now I actually really feel like I know what I'm doing. And that was huge.
How long did that project take you?
It was a little over a year.
A little over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, you're really learning the resources, the vendors, the process.
Absolutely. Refining my internal process. The one good thing about having your own business is that you craft your process to fit what works for you. So, I developed, how do I handle proposals and purchase orders and invoicing and client billing and sort of all in presentations and all of those different things to play on my strengths. And that project helped me to develop all of those tools, a lot I still use today.
And did you have friends in the industry? Did you have colleagues that were also designers? I mean, who was giving you ideas about how to put a proposal together and what to articulate and what to...
I knew exactly 0 people.
Extremely well connected.
Very well connected. But I reached out to the designer, Keita Turner, who is fantastic.
Lovely.
And, just cold called, and she agreed to meet me for a coffee. And she was so generous and so encouraging. And, I see her around and I constantly bring it up. I'm like, I thank you, thank you so much. And so through her, she would let me know about some events. And so, she brought me with her, and I started to meet people from there. So I always remember that. And so I try to do that as much as I can, because I know how impactful it was for me. So thank you, Keita.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So that was very generous of her, and so
very generous.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to send her a note later tonight. She's lovely and a great one to take you in.
Yeah, she's a fabulous designer.
Yeah. So that's great because, I mean, again, so often we think about leaving design school and what's going to happen next. You know, it's how do you get it going, particularly if you don't go to work for somebody else. And we'll talk more about that because I know that even though things have worked out well, part of you wishes you'd had the opportunity to work for someone else.
Yeah. You know, it's two sides of the coin, right? Because the benefit of not doing that, like I was saying, you create your own process. It's painful and hard, but you create something that really works for you. Whereas you work for someone else, you see their process, and if it does work, you've got ready-made so that when you move on. And I think also, again, building connections in the industry, potential clients, you know, if you're working for someone else, you have all of that. And if you start out on your own, you have nothing, really.
Nothing. We want to drive that home. Nothing. You are out there all by yourself, scratching and clawing your way through, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, as you had to.
I did.
So this was also the start of good things for you as well. So
Absolutely.
One of the things you decided would be a good way to get yourself out there was, let's find a show house that I can spend lots of money putting together.
You know, I wish I could claim credit for that. You know, again, it was the wonderful Aspire team. You know, they really believed in me, and they were doing a show house in Detroit. And they called and they said, we have this room, one of the crappy rooms that no one really wants.
The starter room.
The starter room.
We all have to start somewhere.
Those always end up being the best rooms in show houses.
Stars are made that way.
You know, and you know, I'd never done a project long distance, never done a show house, and I said absolutely for some reason. But I had a lot of faith that this had the potential to be a real game-changing opportunity. And I approached it that way. And I'm always like, if you're gonna do a show house, it's so much time, it's such a hassle, it's so expensive, so you need to really understand why you're doing it. Like, what are you really looking to get out of it? And for me, I hadn't had the chance to really creatively express myself in a complete way, like to really push the boundaries a bit and make a little bit of a splash. And so I said, you know what, this is the moment to do that. And so I approached it that way. And, you know, this is me, like this is my style, this is what I like. But it was, you know, playing with pattern and color, layering graffiti art over Art Deco mural. Like it was, again, it's always fun and colorful, but elegant. And it was really trying to communicate that. So yeah, that was the goal. I spent way too much money, way too much. So it really was a risk and an investment in myself. You know, you have to take those risks, you know, if you want to get to that next place. And, you know, luckily it really worked out well.
It did.
It did.
So what came of it as a result?
Well, a lot of other editors, it was the first time they were seeing my work. So I was just on people's radars. It got published in print, I think 7 times. It was all over the internet. It was popular on Instagram. And it also put me in front of a lot of vendors as well. I was able to sort of start long-lasting vendor relationships through this. And I got 2 clients out of this project. So there were a lot of big positives, but I think probably the biggest one was, I talk about it a lot, but just confidence. Yeah. It was like, yeah, like I have a voice and it's compelling and I know how to communicate that, and you know, I have the power and the strength to put myself out there in that way, because you know, with creative things, you know, it's part of you, and so it can be a little humbling and intimidating to do that. But this project really gave me the confidence.
Well, and to your point, I mean, pretty bold stylistically, putting yourself out there and saying this is the kind of work I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, and it was fun though too, because like that little green chair, that was the first chair I ever designed from scratch, you know, and so that was fun to play and to experiment and figure out how do you make a chair. The wall tile back there is a marble mosaic that I custom designed with the Ann Sachs team. And talk about a fun process, you know, that was incredible, and still ongoing fantastic relationship with them. So, you know, it was a chance to experiment and try things without the pressure of a client, you know, so yeah, it's great.
And just whisper to us, ballpark figure, how much of your own money you had to put in.
You ready?
Yeah.
This was a small space too. It was probably over 50,000.
Over 50,000.
But you got some clients.
Yes,
Got
two
two
clients,
clients.
right? A lot of editorial coverage, Instagram.
Oh, I would do
mean,
it.
Sure.
I do
right?
it again in a heartbeat.
You do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. In
Yes.
fact, I did.
In fact, wait a sec. I did.
Yeah. 4 show houses.
4 show houses.
Mm-hmm.
Because you found them to be so helpful in just getting yourself out there?
Definitely, and to also show really bold designs, you know, because it's most clients, they want to kind of, they're like, oh, but I want to.
They won't let you do this.
Yeah.
Right.
But the more I was able to do this, then I started to get clients who were like, no, I want this. Let's do this. And it took time, but the show houses really helped me to build a body of work, showing, oh, it's not a fluke. Oh, you know, I can actually do this. And without that, I don't know that I would be able to get a lot of the clients that we get today.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, and I
That's
got
really
really lucky with show houses. I got clients from 3 out of the 4, so it can also be, you know, potential clients too.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a lot of designers are always sort of weighing what the benefits are going to be. Is it going to be a future client? Is it going to be all this editorial coverage that you talked about?
I would say if your primary motivator is just, I to get clients, that's not, don't do it. Don't do it. It needs to be something bigger than that.
And so for you, it was really about
Expressing my point of view. It was really creating something that people would pay attention to, that would catch the industry and just sort of get myself out there. The clients it was a wonderful immediate benefit, but again, it was really expressing my viewpoint.
and becoming known for the look. And then this exciting day, of course.
Talk
Yes.
about a highlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But so tell us about some of what else we're going to see here.
So this is my apartment. The sofas probably looks familiar from the show house. But, you know, I definitely practice what I preach. You know, color makes me happy. And, you know, I've lived in this space for about 6 years, and I still love that blue and the orange. It just makes everything great. So this space, I grew a lot in my career in this space. I'm actually going to be moving in a couple months, so it's a little bittersweet. But yeah, again, just having fun.
But your own home helped people to see the kind of work that you wanted to do. And
Absolutely. And I think also when I'm pitching crazy color ideas, I'm like, hey, I live in this and it feels great, you know? And when people come into that space, they're like, you know what? It actually feels really good in here. They're often really surprised because they think, oh my God, my eyes are gonna be like, ah. But when you sit down and you just kind of take it all in a strange way, the blue almost becomes a neutral. It's a ground that all the other colors are playing on, and yeah, it's a wonderful space.
would you? And so I know it got a lot of editorial coverage, and and was it a helpful tool for clients to come and see as well? Because a lot of designers will say to me, oh my gosh, my home is my best selling tool with clients. I show them this, I show them how I live, I show them how I do the kitchen. That sounded like it was helpful for you.
Yeah, just once. It was mostly photographs to communicate, because again, it's a lot of like, you know, take the leap with me. You know, I'm living it. I can tell you from firsthand. See, you know, and that's how I was able to use it for sure. Oh, so this is a project we recently completed. This one was really special because we worked with a company called Decor A-List. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They do beautiful hand-painted wallpaper. And so it was the first time working with them, and we took their cranes pattern and we completely custom colored it. And we did beading and threading and gold leaf. It was fabulous. It took forever, but worth it. And the team, they were so excited about it that they're working on putting this colorway in their collection because they loved it so much. And so I was like, wow, so cool. And then that's the first chandelier I ever designed from scratch. So that one turned out pretty cute too. Yeah.
So tell me, for your business, your firm, how you go from you yourself and taking on clients, and then finally getting to that place where, okay, this is a real business. I need to actually bring on some people to help and to grow this. Tell me about that process for you.
Yeah, the steps for me, you know, I was in a home office for about 5 years. And then the next step was to go into a shared workspace. And at the time, there was a company called Fuego. I don't know if anybody remembers them.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a shared designer space where there was a material library in the center, and the designers all could rent individual desks if they wanted to, or spaces.
It was incredible because, I mean, the space was spectacular, number one. But number two, so many of the designers in that space were really well-established designers, you know, like big names, like Sheila Bridges was in that space, Young Ha was in that space. So, you know, being surrounded by that, I was like, I gotta up my game, like, you know, like it was really, it was just like invigorating, and it really like lit a fire in me. And I felt more professional, if that makes sense, like getting out of my home and into an actual space. The mental shift I didn't anticipate, but it was huge. And that was the point where I said, okay, I'm gonna try to have help. And so I started with part-time help. And, you know, did that for a couple years, and that was great. And then I realized, no, I actually need some full-time. And it's interesting, one of the first hires was not a design person. It was actually our studio director. So after Fuego, the shared space, the next step was to get my own office space. And so there was a lot that goes into making that happen, of course. And we were working on so many projects and just keeping everything organized. And one of the things I really don't like, and I'm not great at, is like organizing installs and overseeing all of those, you know, that is not my strength. And so I brought in someone who that is her superpower. She's fantastic. And she grew so quickly into really my partner. And so she handles a lot. And I was able to take so much off my plate. Because, you know, when you're a one person or even with a part-time, you are doing everything. You have like 10 jobs, you know? And so to be able to like take those off, it just felt so good, and it freed me up to grow.
So tell me what is different about, because the name of your firm, left, right, the whole reference to the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. Tell me where you felt, oh, I want help with install day. Is that an organizational structure that was just sort of different to how you think? Because I would think financial modeling and all of that was your forte, but tell me.
Yeah, the finance side, that was fine. I enjoy doing that, so that was good. But it was so many little things. It's like office management and project management and construction oversight and client billing and so many things I was able to take a step back from. It allowed me to do the things I'm actually good at, you know? And so I feel like I see this question a lot, like what should be your first hire? That there's no one answer. The whole thing is to look inside and say, okay, what do I want to be doing? What am I not so good at? And that's what you need to hire. You know, a lot of times you say, oh, bookkeepers first. For me, that wasn't the first, because that was the easy part for me. So you really have to figure it out. But it takes a lot of. It's scary taking on full-time employees. It's very scary. It's a lot of pressure, but it's also so wonderful to be able to do this with other people and to share the journey, the ups, the downs, and yeah, we try to have fun in the office.
But it was a little nerve-wracking when you're hiring that first person and creating a payroll and being responsible for all of that. It was terrifying. It's still terrifying, you know, because it's not just me. So, you know, other people are relying on me too, and you know, my team is so important to me, and helping them succeed and meet their goals is just so critical. And you know, so I put a lot of pressure on myself around that, but they're also like so loyal, and they're so dedicated, you know. And so I think you get what you put in to a team, you know. It's a reciprocal type of relationship. Yeah.
So these are a couple fun. So this is actually one project. And I love to play with wallpaper, as you can see. Vutsa, I don't know if you guys know Vutsa. They're one of my absolute favorites.
He's a pretty crazy guy. Yeah.
Really fun stuff.
Yes.
And the project on the left, it was a loft downtown, and it was like, we ended up with this wall that was like over 30 feet. Like, it was just this long wall and super high ceilings. And it was like, let's do a crazy wallpaper, you know? And the clients were super fun and game. And, you know, there's so many colors in there that just set the tone for the entire apartment. And it's still one of my faves. And then on the right, you know, you always talk about the awful spaces. You know, this was like a little hallway between two kids' bedrooms. The window faces a brick wall. It's like a nothing space. But those are sometimes my favorite, because that's where you can really have fun. And so we use this flavor paper wallpaper. It's actually scratch and sniff. And so the kids absolutely love it. Yeah, it's really fun.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
And now I love it even more. So
they like
really
to scratch
smell
different
like
bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a fun one. It's another Vutsa wallpaper. The client wanted like a jewel box, like, you know, she was like a divorcee and she's like starting over and she's fabulous, and she's like, I've got this jewel box apartment, and she's an antiques dealer. She has, you know, really wonderful eye. She's unafraid of color, but she also has this irreverent side. You know, as you can see, the art above the bed, the tigers on that antique bed. So it was really a lot of fun doing this room. Yeah. I love that artwork above. Okay, so this is something we're actually working on now. This is an apartment downtown, and our clients jumped off the bridge with me, and we painted.
Yeah, they're taking some risks here.
Huge, again, kind of a loft space, and we decided to paint it in an Eve Klein blue, which is that super intense blue. And Resource Paint, they do a special formulation, and it's so intense and almost velvety, like you want to just kind of like go like that on the walls. And you know, I pitched it. I was like, you know what? all the walls and part of the ceiling, you know, and I thought they'd say, absolutely not. And they said, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. And then we just kept going. And this one, and they have a fantastic art collection too, so this one's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, they are all on board with you. To pick up on the conversation that we were just having, and I wanted to, again, sort of gear this to students especially, who, you and I were having a conversation recently about, so often we think that the dream is to go out and start our own firm, but that might not be everyone's dream or even what's best for everyone. We had some speakers in here not long ago from Ferguson. I understand it's Shamamian that I'm supposed to say now instead of Shamamian, but okay. So we had some people from Ferguson Shamamian, and a lot of that team has been there for 20 years, 30 years, and they all just love working as a team, and they love working for this prestigious firm, and it's what works for them. So yeah, I know that sometimes you feel like, wow, this is a lot, managing my own firm.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, the opportunity to do cool things like this is such a tiny part of like what it all really is. You know, I think if you're considering that, if you have your own business, you are a business owner first. You're an interior designer second. If you don't love the business side, the strategy, the stress of it all, the excitement of the actual business and planning and all of that, why would you like torture yourself?
Why would you do that to yourself?
No, seriously though, like go work for someone else and they'll do all of that.
No, exactly. And I feel like we live in a society that sometimes over glamorizes being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I get it, but also, wow, when the Ferguson Shamamian guy was talking, I was like, I kind of want to work for Ferguson Shamamian. I want to come work there. Like, yeah. So I wanted to drive that message home just because, as you were just saying, more and more you end up getting to do less and less of the actual design work or spending the time on the creative things that you love, because you are having to manage a staff and you are having to make all the decisions about everything else.
And you know, I spend a lot of my time not designing. But the flip side of that is you do have creative control, which is really pretty cool. So, you know, but there's a price for that. And so it's just, if you're considering that, really understand that you're gonna be spending a lot of your time not as an interior designer. And I think it's fun, but you know, if you feel like, God, that sounds terrible, you know, I would say go work for some really cool firms. Like,
no, exactly. And I mean, again, to each his own, but I wanted you to really paint the reality of it, because for many, and I speak to a lot of designers who say to me, boy, if I had known it was going to be this intense running my own firm, I might not have chosen that path necessarily.
Yeah, and I struggled for years. Like, it was really, I was coming in at zero, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I thankfully I didn't give up. But yeah, it was really hard to get started and to keep at it. It was a real challenge,
Yeah.
Oh, so this is...
So again, to your creative control, you get to do this, so...
Yeah, this is
that.
a bathroom we're just finishing up in a project in the city. And I really love to play with scale in smaller spaces, and so we use this Christian Lacroix mural in here, and it's just this giant scale, and when you step into the space, you're just like enveloped. Like, it's the coolest feeling. And so it was really playing with a mix of materials and finishes, and we used the Lemurian blue stone, the dark one on the countertop. It's one of my favorite marbles. But yeah, this was a fun one.
So earlier when you were trying to outfit some of the show houses that you were doing early in your career, I'm guessing that many vendors wouldn't give you things or lend you things because you hadn't yet done any business with them, never mind a
Yeah.
meaningful amount of business. Tell me a little bit about that, and
Yeah.
do you get the satisfaction now of being able to go
Yeah.
back and say, oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny that that first show house, so that wallpaper that was in there, it's called Garden of Eden by a company called Ozabri. If you don't know them, look it up. Karen Roberts is the owner. She's wonderful. So she was kind of just starting out right a year or two before that show house. And I had seen her booth at ICFF. You should definitely be going to the trade shows just to see new stuff. And it just was so amazing. It stuck in my head, and I was like, oh, you know, maybe one day I'll get to do something like that. And I reached out with the sweetest email I could possibly craft. And I explained what I was doing, and she gave me the wallpaper, and that was the first step. And the wallpaper was everything in that space. Yeah. And so I've had a wonderful creative collaboration with her. In fact, I've got a sort of pink and gold and cream version of that wallpaper in my bedroom now, and it's like waking up in a magical forest. It's really fabulous. So, you know, got very lucky with that. You know, not so lucky with quite a few other vendors.
go ahead, tell us who turned you down in the early days.
Yeah.
Tell us who wasn't there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. Okay, later we'll talk. All right.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of companies, listen, they look at your account and they say, oh, well, you haven't really done much business with us, so
Yeah.
sorry, no, we're not going to give you whatever.
But you know what? I will tell you, you know, when I was first starting, had $0 spend, and some showrooms will treat you like crap. I mean, they really will. And some showrooms, the opposite. They were welcoming, they were encouraging, it was great. And those are the showrooms that are our go-tos now.
Sure.
You know, now that we're spending six figures in any particular showroom, it's like, I remember, you know, so it's really important to, you know, be kind.
Yeah.
You never know.
absolutely. So tell us who some of the showrooms were that were nice then. Tell us the nice, generous showrooms.
Schumacher.
Schumacher, okay.
Fantastic. Kravit.
Great.
Kravit, fantastic.
Two donors, good, okay, like this.
Ann Sachs and Kohler. They have
okay.
been
We need to work on that.
incredibly generous. Iatesta Studio, Ozabri, Fabricut, we've done a lot with them. Tebow, Sanderson, yeah.
Okay, so these are all the friendly people that you can go to.
No, seriously,
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
you are gonna peek into the D&D, the Tebow team, they're super nice, really, really nice. And Tebow and Sanderson are right next to each other, and they have beautiful showrooms, so
Yeah.
definitely recommend.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good, all right.
So yeah, so this is an interesting project, and you know, sometimes we do neutral things.
I was so surprised when you threw this in here. I thought, wait, I'm sorry, I must have gotten someone else's presentation.
Yeah. And this is one of my absolute favorite clients. In fact, we're doing another house for them now. And we had this weird long hallway, and it was super boring. And she wasn't really a color person. And so we got to play with texture. And it was the first time I got to work with Venetian plaster as a material. And it was so fun. We collaborated with Fresco Decorative Arts. They do like the Chanel stores and like the Tiffany store, you know, so I was like, wow, you know, and it was kind of intimidating, but they're really, really great collaborators. So I drew this pattern out, you know, and we went and I said I wanted these different textures and different dimension and everything. And they had some artists come on site and spend a little over a week. And it like, in the space, you walk in and it's just like this, it's like you're inside an oyster shell. It's so beautiful, and it's got this like strange, weird texture, and it's really cool.
How great.
Yeah, really fun.
Okay, now we're back to our regular scheduled programming.
Yeah, so this is a house in DC. Really, really excited and happy with this one. Again, the clients were fearless. You know, they said yes to an orange on orange dining room. And yeah, and we got to play with that fantastic Jim Thompson fabric on the sofa, one of my favorites. And the like egg yolk yellow lacquered double height stair hall. It's just everything. And this is sort of an early 20th century craftsman style home. And so the front door is like partially glass. And so from the street, you can see this.
Really?
And so it's like the neighborhood's become like the people are like,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
peeking
sure.
in. So yeah, really fun.
Wow.
Like Rosie Lee.
It sure is. Yeah, it's the first time I worked with her. She's amazing, amazing.
Very, very cool. I want to bring some microphones around so that you all can ask questions. So Karen is right here if you want to give me an idea of who, right? Okay. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shruti.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so excited to meet you because I'm also a career changer. I used to be a dentist and I went to NYSID and now I started my own firm. But I have a question for you. So when you see a space and what is your process? What is your creative process from getting here, basically?
Yeah, that's a great question. I personally think that the beginning is the singular moment. You're creating the blueprint for everything that comes later. So phase one, or that concept phase, is where I torture myself. That's where I take a minute and I sit back and I'm thinking about the clients. You know, we've had a meeting with them to really start to get to know them a little bit. And then, you know, you have to kind of sit back for a minute and let the ideas start to percolate. And it's often like, okay, what are the strengths of this space? What are the negatives? If there is a big negative that's a challenge, what can I do to actually make it a really cool positive? Like, clients love when you can do something creative with something that they think is like an eyesore. But the actual creative part is really, it comes from looking constantly, you know what I mean? And so then when you sit down for ideas, you're like, oh, I saw that a year ago or 2 years ago, and I put everything in my Pinterest, you know, and then I go back and I find little sparks of inspiration. The way I like to do it is I'll set up a slide for each room, and then I just start to jot notes, like ideas, like, like I'm doing concept on a project now, and it's like, oh, you know, maybe steel blue and oxblood is a palette, and maybe there's a little olive in there. Oh, maybe we're doing this built-in, maybe we do olive velvet on the back of it to bring in some cool texture. You know, we have this weird column that's in there, and I was like, oh, maybe we cover it in like shimmery kind of wallpaper or mica or something like that. So it's like literally just letting yourself kind of ideas and then whittling it down from there. And then I start to search based on those ideas and look for images that someone has maybe done that. And it used to be really frustrating, but whenever I can't find an image, I actually think that's good, because I'm like, okay, maybe we're doing something a little different. Maybe you know, we're gonna do something that's gonna surprise the client. So I've learned to have peace with that. But yeah, and my team, they're so funny, because every single concept phase, there's this moment of intense doubt. It's like, oh my God, I just don't, this is terrible. You know, it's, for me, that's just part of it. And then, you know, I buck up and I say, no, this is good. And then I communicate it as well as I can.
So your doubt comes from anxiety about showing this to the client. I've got this bold idea. We're gonna do this orange on orange dining room, and
because I feel like with concept, it's in my mind, you either really get it right or you really get it wrong. And if you get it wrong, clients start to doubt you. And I'm a big believer from the very start, you're building confidence with them. you're building trust, because they're going to be giving you a lot of money and they need to have faith that you can execute. It's not just creative. And if you mess that up, it's hard to get back. So for me, I stress and struggle there because I know if I get that right, the rest is way easier.
Okay. Yes, we have a question over here.
Hi, thank you so much for
Hi. What's your name?
Libre.
Nice to
Your,
meet
your
you.
tidbits, the jewels, this is awesome for me to hear.
Thank you.
You've been doing this clearly a long time now, pre-social media. How has that changed how you deliver your message, relate with clients, etc., and adding it to what you'd rather not do in your business since you'd rather focus on creating?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was starting to come up, Instagram was just kind of becoming like really popular, and Instagram is such a powerful tool. So I was on there, I had like 5 followers, and but I met the owner of Society Social, Roxy, who's
Roxy's
wonderful.
so great.
And at the time, she was just getting started. And so, I went in, I met her, she was so lovely. It was just a really kind exchange. And she posted a picture of my work. And then within like a week, I had like 4,000 followers. And so it's just another example of just being kind, putting good energy out there. People want to help you succeed. So that sort of laid the groundwork. And then it was being consistent. It was being aware of what I'm posting. But this also was really key because I was scared to get really specific on Instagram. And, I had to believe that getting really clear on what I'm selling color, joy, it's elegant but fun, it's a little irreverent. Like that's what you'll see on my Instagram. It's not intimidating, that's not the message. And so it's like when I started to be more authentic and really myself and let the veil slip a little bit and show a little bit of vulnerability, that's when people start to say, to get engaged and to really like to interact with you. And then also, like, if you do have interactions with people on Instagram, like, it's two-way. It's two-way. And, I love when, like, a designer starting out, they'll DM me or something, and, I'll write a nice message back and follow them back. Like that, that's how it goes. I do think it's harder now to build on Instagram. They've really made it. I've heard TikTok is becoming a thing.
Yeah.
The tickety talk.
No
Oh my gosh.
question. No question. Are you doing some reels? You doing some videos? What are you
I'm
doing,
still
Courtney?
trying to get the reels right.
Okay.
I'm still,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I do wish sometimes it's maybe one of the areas that we need to work on to have a more formal social media plan. To be honest, 90% of the time it's me on there, and I'm like, oh, I feel like posting this picture. This is what I'm liking today. Let me just post it, But I guess the flip side is it's like you're actually seeing what's really happening. And so people are kind of following your story. But I do think it's so wonderful that you can take that power into your own hands, right? Because editors, that's a whole other conversation, but breaking into that can be so hard. And there's so many fewer books now, so fewer projects get published. Like, it's just hard to get yourself out there that way. So Instagram is fantastic. Also, if you've got any photos with product in it, tag the vendors. They love that. Sometimes they'll want to repost it. I've had that happen and then gain like 1,000 followers or something. I do that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Good advice. Okay. Oh, all right.
Hi, my name is Jamila. We met.
Yes,
already.
we did meet. How are you?
And I have a question in regards to when you started your first client. How did you charge them, and what was the change maybe over time? That would be.
Oh boy, I've tried every way over the years. Yeah, I was charging basically nothing. I mean, truly, I think I was charging like $40 an hour or something
Stop
like
it.
that.
Really? In the beginning?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous.
No wonder those clients were loving you.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But,
Yeah.
you know, I thought I'm learning here too.
Sure.
So, you know, they aren't getting what they get now,
Mm.
you know, and so, you know, it was also undervaluing myself as well. I can admit that. But I was charging hourly then, and over the years I've tried flat fee, all hourly, like a hybrid. Right now and I've been doing this for years now, and I love it. It works for us. We do a hybrid. So the parts of the process that we really control, like the phase 1 concept development, we have steps that we really follow. And so I really know how much time that typically takes. So I can confidently price that with a fixed fee. But then the parts where I really don't have control, like installation, like renovation oversight, you know, stuff like that, you can't price that fixed
Sure.
fee.
Because you have no idea how much
You
time
have
that's
no
going to take.
idea, and I got burned. I got burned quite a few times trying to do that. And so I find clients, you know, we give them, this is fixed, and then this is hourly, and we say, as we go through from phase to phase, we'll give you an estimate, you know, and once we know the style and what we're doing, the scope, then we can put a range on, oh, you know, specifications will probably be in this range, you know, the renovation will probably take, you know, 6 months, and so, you know, an hour a week or so, you know, something like that. And so it's enough information for the client to be on board, but it's enough flexibility to protect yourself. Because if you charge, my personal opinion, if you charge a 100% flat fee, you've got to charge such a high rate just to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, you mentioned in another event that you weren't charging markups in the beginning, but that's another thing you obviously probably changed. May I ask about the percentage and whether you are transparent with your clients regarding that?
Yeah, in the beginning, if I could go back and change one thing, that would be it, that I didn't charge markups.
That you didn't charge markups on product.
You can't be profitable.
So just
can't.
drive that home because I mean that's such an important message.
And the thing for me was, I was like, I don't get the markup. Why am I, you know, but it's part of the design fee. Like when I started to look at it like that, like part of what I'm charging you is this rate, and then part of it is in product, you know? And I've explained that to clients, and I'm like, oh, you know, well, you know, we can not charge you a markup, but then your design fee will be some crazy stupid number. And they're like, oh, no, we get it, we understand, you know? And so it was really a mental hurdle for me to get over. And now I love the markup, it's great. So we charge 30%. It varies though in our contract. If we're doing something custom, we say it varies depending on the work involved and all of that. If we're doing something at auction, we do a little bit less. If it's something at retail, we'll do a little bit less. So, but it evens out to around 30%.
Got it. So sometimes you get 30% off from a trade program, but then you charge again the 30%?
Mhm.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
That's when she really started making money. That's when it really,
It's true.
Yeah.
It's,
No, it's. I mean,
please learn from my errors.
That's why she's sharing all of this with
Yeah.
you, so that you don't make that same mistake. Yes, over here.
Hello, my name is Avi.
Hi.
I really resonate with your story a lot because I'm a career changer as well. I actually also used to work in finance.
Oh, wow. We have to chat.
All right.
And my question to you is, it's really easy for people to see your success and feel like it happened overnight. But can you tell us about a time where you maybe failed or you struggled and the lessons that you learned and how it helped you grow as an individual and a business?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question because I struggled for years. And there was one particular project that came along. Actually, the woman had seen the image with the dress on the art and she loved that. And so she called me and she had this fabulous loft in Tribeca. And, you know, at the time that was, you know, wow, like huge. And I let her drive the bus. You know, she led me around and took me here and there. And I just didn't have the confidence to drive the bus.
Right.
And that was a horrible experience. It was a complete failure. She was like upset. I was in tears. You know, the project was never fully done. And it was heartbreaking. It was truly, truly heartbreaking and hard not to get so down on myself that I just kind of peter out and give up. You know, so, but I also value that experience, right? Because that's when I really learned people are coming to you because they want guidance. They want you to lead, you know what I mean? And oftentimes you'll get, you know, pretty, you know, confident, aggressive personality sometimes in clients, and you just have to match that energy. And once you're like, I see you, then they respect you a little bit and they back off. But that experience taught me, do not let the client dictate your process, you know, and be really clear in the beginning about how you work and say, you know, this is what you're getting. It might not be for you, and that's okay, you know, but if you aren't clear, if you aren't strong in that, oh gosh, yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but as you say, a great learning experience. Okay. Yes, in the back. Okay.
Hi, my name is Phyllis, and I'm also a career changer. I used to work in finance.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
We need to all get together.
This room is like, all right.
And I just started a process, and I'm just curious to hear about your experience, because finance is less of a creative field and the culture is very different. Just curious, you know, if you went through any transition from, you know, adjusting to the culture, and even just pace of doing things, or
Yeah. I love that question, because you might be struggling with this too. It was owning that I'm a creative person. Because when you work in finance, I'm a businesswoman, you know, like that. And
Is that how you walked when you worked on Wall Street? Kind of like that? Yeah. No, I get that.
But like allowing yourself to accept that, you know, and not feeling like, oh, I'm an outsider, you know, do I belong? For me, the transition in mindset was really important. And, you know, I loved what I was doing, and I started to succeed more the more I leaned into, I'm a creative person, you know, I can do this. So for me, I think that I wish I had sort of had that conversation in my head earlier. I think that would have really helped. But also, the surprising thing was how much of that background helped with design. Because design is so much about organization and logistics and communication and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, which you've honed in your other, you know, career. And so that was a happy surprise. So you can do it.
And we've had so many people up on this stage, designers, who said they wished they had more of a financial background or grounding. And so many designers, Bonnie Williams, who said she stayed at Parrish Hadley for 20 years because she was afraid of the bookkeeping, you know, she was afraid of the financial side. So you've got a leg up on a lot of designers already. Yes.
Wow, sorry, that was so loud. I just have to say thank you so much for being so open and honest. I don't see that a lot when people come up here and they're not so forthcoming with all the information. Like Shruti, I also was a dentist before. In the design school. By the way,
What?
we went to a dentist that had
No
this
way.
earlier this year.
The
Love
two
it.
dentists
We're
together.
sitting right next to each other.
Love this.
I went on to own my own clinic, and one of the issues that I would face a lot was managing employees. So as an owner, a lot of my stress, a lot of the sleepless nights was all about the employees. So I'm curious how you manage that, because that's one of my qualms going back into business.
Yeah.
Because it is very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, you know, and I struggle with that too, because I wondered, do I just want to be a solo shop and
Yeah.
take on a small amount and that can be awesome, or did I want to build out a team? Again, I think that what you give what you get. You know, I talk to a lot of designers. It's so surprising, and they're like, "Oh, I can't get them to be motivated," or, you know, and I just kind of am like, you know, and I'm thinking, well, what have you done for your team? Have you communicated that you're invested in them? And that's the constant, like a virtuous circle in the office, you know, and every couple of months I'm like, hey, you know, any goals, anything you're interested in? Can I help with something? Is there something within the business that you'd like to be doing more of? And the more they experience that from you, the more pride they take in the work, the more invested they are in you and your success. And so I found it to be really natural. And also, don't be afraid to give people opportunities. It's really hard, and you probably know this as a business owner, to give someone something to do and then trust that they'll do it right. And it's sort of like getting comfortable with sometimes they're gonna do it the wrong way. I make mistakes all the time. But that's how they grow. That's how they learn. Like our junior designer, you know, she's like a year out of school and she's doing things that like designers probably 4 or 5 years into their career doing. Why? Because she demonstrated that she could do this, and then she could do that, and then she could do that. And so I'm always just saying that benefits me too, because she's doing fantastic work. So my best advice would be look for that quality when you're interviewing, and then make sure you are proactively investing in your employees, and it'll reap dividends for sure.
Okay, one last question here.
Totally switching gears.
Okay.
I am.
Don't tell us you're a dentist. Are you a dentist? Okay.
But I am a career changer.
Okay.
I came from television and film.
Oh.
Okay.
I wanted to know how you decide whether you're going to take on a client who has a completely different desire of outcome than like your aesthetic. So I saw that neutral one and I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
challenge to take on. So how do you decide that you're going to go for something that's completely different?
Yeah, it's funny because like for me, like a neutral interior is so scary. Like, cream and white and gray, oh my God, that's so hard. So this client, it was interesting because she followed me on Instagram and she was like, I don't know why I'm calling you.
Which I find is a great way to start any relationship.
She was like, you know, I don't know, just something was like, I think it'll be the right fit. And I said, I don't know why you're calling me either, but
So, if you looked at my work, 'cause
yeah,
I really don't.
but it was like a challenge. It was a challenge for me, and I nudged her a little bit my way. She nudged me her way. I learned so much from that project, and it was so fun, and I got more confident about working with neutrals, and she got more comfortable with a little bit of color here and there. And it was such a fruitful collaboration that we're working on a ground up house for them. And so, you know, I'd say don't be afraid to step outside the comfort zone. I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I had the opportunity, because the downside is not a lot of people call me for neutral interiors.
And you showed you could do it.
I wanted to prove that I could do
Yes.
it. Yeah, and I did
Your
it.
range.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now you have that. You can show that to
Yeah,
a specific
exactly.
client
Exactly.
that wants that.
Exactly.
One of the reasons we were so excited to have Courtney here, and you referenced it, as you see, she's so real, she's so genuine, she's so willing to share, and this has been so lovely, and we've all gotten so much out of it. Will you please join me in thanking Courtney for this?
Thank you guys for coming. This was so fun.
This is so great.
This is so fun. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm sure Courtney will stay a few more minutes to answer questions,
Yeah.
but thank you all again for coming. And come on back at the end of the month. I think it's the 29th of November. We're having Suzanne Tucker here. So we'll see you back here then. But thank you all again for coming.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Nothing to be nervous about.
You made it easy.